Tim Blankenship here, Divorce661.com daily perspective, episode number 35, day in the life of a paralegal. How you doing this Friday? Boy, it's been a long day. You won't believe it, but I've been in the office since 2:30 this morning. I woke up and I had so much to do and clients were on my mind, and it just keeps me from going back to sleep. It's awful. It's an awful condition. But here we are 13, 14 hours later. I'm still sitting here and I got a lot done. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm Tim Blankenship, and I'm a legal document preparer. I've been doing this for 12 years, and I handle amicable divorce cases throughout California. I don't think I ever mentioned that when I start these podcasts, but that's what I do. That's who I am. If you have an amicable divorce in California, I'd be happy to help you. Here's what we did today. I had 5 consultations for this December 1st, Friday, December 1st, 2023. 2 were for people that were looking to file a new divorce case. 3 were people who had filed and had issues, judgment rejections, got stuck in the process, got confused as to where they're at and needed help. Some were several years old and they're ready to get those finalized. I had 2 new divorce cases that we filed today, one for Orange County, one for LA County. Had 2 approvals. And again, both of these were judgment rejections or where people had problems with prior cases that we took on earlier in the week, and they had been going on for several years, and we got them finalized in less than 3 or 4 days, approved by the court. Got those approvals in. I just was able to email those out to clients, so they're very happy. Today, I did 10 judgments that I finalized for people. This is where I finalized their judgment package. They got me their settlement terms. We had previously filed their case, and I drafted their settlement agreement, their entire judgment package. 10 today. That's what I had my mind on. That's what woke me up, because I knew I had a bunch to do today and people wanted to get them done before the end of the week. We had 2 for Contra Costa, 3 for Alameda County, 1 for Yolo County, 1 for El Dorado County, 2 in LA County, 1 in Pomona, and 1 for Central, and then 1 for Orange County. All of the settlement agreements are 90% the same documents and forms, but some of the counties want slightly different language and different processing. And this way, even though it's pretty consistent throughout California with the counties, some of the documents will be changed and there will be differences. And fortunately, I've been doing this, as I mentioned, for 12 years, going on 12 years, and we do work with all the courts and we file a lot of cases. I think yesterday I mentioned that we hit case number 332. So including today, we're now 334 cases for the year. So I'm just, not to brag, but we have lots of experience in dealing with the courts is all I'm saying. So today's discussion, what we're going to talk about is the easy way to file for divorce, how to stop your divorce case if you want to stop it, the leading cause of divorce, how to handle rejection of your divorce judgment, online divorce services and why they're absolutely terrible, and how to create a peaceful co-parenting plan. So, number 1, easy way to file for divorce. I think people get a little confused in the very beginning and make it a little overcomplicated on how to file. The easiest way to file for divorce is simply to file your summons and petition, and if there's minor children, that extra FL 105 form. That's it. That's all you need to file. Some courts have a jurisdictional form that's special for that county. Some don't. But that's all you have to file. If you have an amicable divorce, you don't have to make it complicated. The 3 people that hired or that called today, the consultations today, 3 of the 5 were people that had previously filed on their own and now they're stuck. In all the cases, when I looked up their online summary, they had filed the initial document, summons petition, their income and expense declaration, the separate property and community property declarations. And those aren't required to be filed with the petition, especially in an amicable divorce. They're not required to be filed at all. So keep it simple. Just file the initial documents to get a case number issued. You don't have to have a settlement agreement or terms listed in the petition. You don't have to list your assets and debts in the separate and community property boxes of the petition itself. We're talking about the FL 100. Keep it simple, because the more detail you put into the initial filing, the more difficult it's going to be to get your judgment approved, especially if you have changes with your assets and debts and requests. Okay, number 2, how to stop the divorce case. So if you're in the middle of a divorce and you have filed, and let's say that it's been served, and let's say you guys have even signed a settlement agreement, up until the time before you submit your judgment and the judgment's been approved, to dismiss your case, all you have to do is file a dismissal. If no response has been filed, the petitioner can dismiss the case all on their own. They don't have to get permission or signature from the respondent, no matter how much effort has been put into your divorce case. All the petitioner has to do is dismiss the case by signing a request for dismissal. Now, if a response has been filed, then it takes both parties' signature on the request for dismissal to dismiss the case. So we never have this issue because we deal with amicable clients. But if you're concerned that your spouse is the petitioner and they filed and they're wavering and maybe they may not go through with it and they may file a dismissal, you may want to file the response just to prevent them from filing a dismissal and stopping the case entirely. I've never seen that happen. I just thought of it on the fly as I'm talking about it. But to dismiss your case, one part, the petitioner signs. If no response, if the response is filed, both parties need to sign the dismissal, and the court will dismiss that. And that's assuming that the judgment has not been approved by the court yet. And why I say that is, if you hear me talk about how fast we get our divorce cases done, we're getting them done within like 35 days. Approved, the judges signed them. Today, the approval we got, their case isn't finalized until May 3rd of next year. I don't have it in front of me. So between the time now that, like in this case, let's say they wanted to dismiss that case, even though the judge had approved it, because that's the whole idea behind that 6-month cooling off period. We can get it approved, but the final divorce date is still, April or May of next year. So you still have that opportunity to just dismiss the case. The difference when once the judge has approved it and signed it, it's not as simple as just signing the dismissal. You now have to file a request for order, have a hearing, and then you have to go into court and ask the court at a hearing, which you can do online most of the time, Zoom or whatnot, and ask them in the hearing to dismiss the case. And that will then again take both of you to do that because the settlement agreement's been signed and notarized and they know both parties are involved. So that can be a little bit trickier, especially if you're closer to that 6-month date coming up and it takes 2 months to get a court date. It's very likely that the divorce will finalize, that date will pass before you ever get into court. Number 3, how to handle a rejection of your divorce judgment. Well, I'll tell you, there's 1,000 reasons, maybe not 1,000, maybe 50 or 60 reasons your judgment can get rejected. And the way to handle that is, in most cases, unless it's really bad, the court is going to send you a reject sheet when you submit your judgment. And they might mark off 1 or 2 issues. If it's really bad, they won't even fully review it. They won't even tell you what's wrong with it. They'll literally say, seek legal advice, because they're so busy, they don't have time to go through and tell you how to fix your judgment. They're going to say, well, obviously this person has no clue what they're doing. And they'll just say, seek legal advice. You have multiple judgment errors, and they won't go through it because it's not their job to tell you how to do it. Now, if it's 1 or 2 things, maybe 3 or 4 things, they'll mark it off. The issue with the judgment rejections when you're doing your own divorce is they'll find 3 or 4 things. They're like, this is a little bit of a mess. Reject it, kick it back to you. You'll fix those, assuming you can figure out what they're telling you to do, and then it gets rejected again. And I've talked about this many times that people get their judgment rejected 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and still it gets rejected again and again. And then they'll finally call us to take over because that's just how the court does it. They do not do a full review of your paperwork. So I guess the answer to how to handle rejection is call me. The 3 cases today, they were stuck. We're going to take over their case next week, and we'll probably have them finalized before the end of next week. Number 4, online divorce service. Oh my God. I want to say 2 of the consultations today where they're having issues were because they were using online divorce services. And there's hundreds of them out there. I know it's enticing. $29, $49, $99, whatever it is. You're like, oh, onlinedivorce.com, Hello Divorce, LegalZoom. I mean, I could rattle off a bunch of them. They all are terrible because here's why. You are the one entering the information online, and that then gets placed directly into the forms. And if you put wrong information on their website, wrong information goes on the forms. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the procedural steps of the divorce are complex. So let's say you have all the paperwork completed. Now, and I've seen these because people call me and say, Tim, having problems, and I'll say, who'd you use? Send me the list of instructions. It's like 7 pages of instructions that you're not going to understand the language. You're not going to understand what form it is. They're telling you to file and then serve by the sheriff and all this crazy stuff. They're leaving the process of you getting through this, the procedural steps. I don't say it's the most difficult part, but it's definitely 50% of the job. With my service, not only do we complete the paperwork, I also handle the process. I also am your process server. I'm also the filer, and I'm also that neutral third party that works for both of you. I know it's enticing to that low cost. The likelihood of you getting those through using these online divorce services is very close to zero. I highly do not recommend them. The last thing I want to talk about is how to create a peaceful co-parenting plan. And all I want to say about that is you do not have to have a detailed parenting plan for your children in California divorce cases. All we ever have to put at a minimum is joint legal, joint physical, reasonable right of visitation, and that's it. That's 90% of our divorce cases. That's what our parenting plan says. Now, can you put details in there? Absolutely. Go wild. You can account for every single day and minute of their time and where they're at and who drives them. And I mean, everything you can get. There's like 5 attachments of child custody. Go wild if you want, but it's not necessary. Most of our clients just want a joint legal, joint physical, reasonable right of visitation, and then they just figure it out on their own. Especially people they've been separated for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. They've been co-parenting on their own without an official court order. Obviously, in those cases, you're not going to have a detailed parenting plan. Keep it simple, folks. Don't go crazy. We keep it simple here. We want to get your divorce done quickly. I know you do as well, and that's what we're here for. I hope you enjoyed episode 35 of the Daily Perspective, Day in the Life of an LDA, for this Friday, December 1st, 2023. You guys have a great weekend, and we will talk to you